Hey guys, Ethereal Light Art here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new to this channel and you like light painting, long exposure photography, or creativity, you're in the right place. Please subscribe and like, share with your artist friends, leave me a comment, I do appreciate them. Thanks for joining me on this journey. Welcome everyone to the next episode of Dude, Where's My Flashlight? Today we are coming from Roma, Italy, and Maria Saggese, a light painting brushes ambassador. Maria, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm so happy to be here and meet you.
I am so happy to have you join this project. We have been admiring your art for many, many years. I'm a huge fan, so this is quite the honor. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for your invitation.
Absolutely. And light painting brushes ambassador, how many years have you been an ambassador with them?
Well, it's around 4 years,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's a lot of time. But I started with light painting brushes around 5 years ago, and I remember that when I bought for the first time the starter kit with light boards and fiber optic, and for the first time I tried the fiber optic, and I started creating the silhouette. And I just loved the fiber optics, especially the white one that I use a lot for my works. It is still my favorite brush.
Oh, I love it too. I love it too. I love all of those tools. Light Painting Brushes was the first company that I found, the first company that I bought from. And it's in a way it's really helped me on my journey to be an artist. They have amazing products. They have a huge
Yeah.
plethora, a wider range of different things for every single light painting need. Um, yeah, I happen to have some of my favorites here too. I don't use the light sword quite as much as I used to, but I definitely use, I'm trying to figure out what the camera is. I
Okay.
definitely use the Angel blade,
Yeah, for the
the
yeah
Angel blade,
for the
which I love some of your stuff.
yeah.
Maria, I have to ask you, do you do you have indoor brushes only for the studio? Because, I take my black fiber optic out and it gets a little dirty, and that's not quite so good when you're painting a model's skin and she's like, "Why is your brush dirty?"
Yeah, I know. Well, I have a lot of different tools. So some of them I use for indoor and some of them the outdoor. So it's better to separate the tools because yeah, I know when you paint outdoor, this is always dirty because yeah, there are like rocks, a lot of different. So paint the model with dirty tools is not it's not great.
Yeah, it's not so great. And speaking of outside, because this is something I definitely want to talk to you about. You do amazing work indoors, but you also take the same concepts, the same style, and put it in a natural, beautiful environment outside.
Yeah.
Speaking of the brushes, like your white one, are you replacing the fibers? Do you wash them out? Like, what kind of aftercare do you put to your brushes? I mean, I rinse them out, but sometimes they can turn a little bit of dusty kind of tan color, and that affects the photos. This shirt right here is pretty white. I don't run around in the dirt, but sometimes these brushes go around in the dirt. How do you aftercare your brushes to keep them so perfect? Or do you?
Yeah, well, for outdoor, I don't use so much the fiber because they are very small. So I prefer to use light swords because they are bigger. So in I can paint just in a few seconds. I have defined silhouette and defined a sharp image.
Let's talk about just the overall beautiful, ethereal, moody, passionate style that you have embodied and that it just pours out of your art. I mean, when I'm looking at your photos, I am literally being swept away in some sort of fairy tale.
Yeah, yeah, I try to, especially working with models, to capture their beauty and ethereal, like an inner light. And I get inspired a lot from the models, and I try to capture like surreal images. So not to capture the reality that we see, but imagine like a new world that we can capture and create with the light, because this is the magic of light painting. We can create everything that we have in mind, so this is the best part. And I always think to create new works, new ideas, and create new beauties and magic.
Oh, I that's perfectly stated. You know, a lot of people don't really talk about the connection between the model and the painter. I mean, there is a serious connection. There's a serious magic and bond that is formed. I mean, it's just by having a brush tickle your skin in a
Yeah.
magical way is special in itself. And then after the creation, can you talk about the relationship between or the bond before you work with a model and then that bond that you feel after you work with the model?
Yeah, it is uh, very a connection between the model and the painter, because we are not only photographers, but we are creating the picture. So being so because we are very close to the model, and it's like capturing her light, her inner light, her beauty. So when I start to paint, I see her eyes, and her beauty comes out from the dark. So it's like being the same person during the shot. So it's not the model and the artist, but it's like to be together.
Yes, I mean there is something magical that's happening. It's happening while the painting's going on. It's happening before. It's certainly happening after.
Yeah.
And if you have a decent photo or a piece of art that you guys have created, that will last forever. I mean, that's part of this beautiful photography is that this one single exposure image will last forever. It's not a painting that's going to deteriorate over time. I mean, this is a digital, beautiful piece of art that can last forever. And that's really
Yeah.
special.
Yeah, it's very special. It's magic. Yeah.
It's pure magic. Maria, do you ever consult or do you ever ask the model in as far as their input on what kind of magic that they would like? I want to talk about Airbnb experiences because that's a whole nother thing, and I'm also doing that, so it's a beautiful thing that we share. But to
Yeah.
stay on topic here, as far as the model goes, do you have any consultation before you do it, or you're kind of just like, hey, lay down, here's the pose, I'm going to do the rest? What's your style?
Yeah. Well, I start always with an idea. So I create like a mood board with some inspirations, like with the poses, style, light that I like. And then I talk a lot with the model and like the makeup artist, and everyone is involved in the shooting, because it's not only the model and the photographer, but sometimes there is like a group and a lot of people that working together. So we talk together about the style and the makeup and everything to have the perfect shooting, and with the same ideas. So it's very important to have same ideas, and because otherwise maybe the model think about another style. So we have um, to know the same ideas and lights and everything.
Yeah, no, it's a team effort.
Yeah,
And, sometimes I even tell the models, not only look at a spot and focus on that spots, right? Sometimes it's
yeah,
the moon. If it were outside, that's a beautiful thing to stare at, or the stars. But if it's indoors, it's like just pick a spot and stare at that. But also, while you're staring at that spot, embody inside, internalize that light shining out of you. Because I
yeah,
think as artists, it's part of our job, like you said, to bring that out of these models, to bring these out of the subjects.
yeah,
And that's where the alchemy of the magic really happens, and that's why we're alchemists. We're taking
yeah.
something that is nothing and we're bringing it out of people. And I think the response that you can see on the many smiles that you've created just in this short 5 years has been mind blowing.
Yeah, I try to experiment every time new things, new start to grow, and also using different tools. Now I'm experimenting with different fiber optics, not just with white one, but with the pink one that you can see here, the blue one, because the light painting brushes now has different fiber optics and different colors, and they create beautiful, beautiful effects. So they're great.
I love it. And they're so soft and ethereal,
Yeah.
that sweeping magic over somebody's skin. I mean, I'm not sure how more beautiful you can make something. I mean, there's obviously 1,000 different ways to do a light painting portrait, but man, I mean, your portraits are
Thank
seriously some of the
you.
best out there. I mean, and they're just so amazing. So you're working on new brushes. Are there any new techniques or anything that you share with the community that you're actually doing with them? Are you actually mixing colors, a little bit of blue, a little bit of pink, and seeing how that blends together? What are you doing with the new brushes?
Yeah, you can, of course, use just one color, but you can combine different colors together. For example, I like to combine like blue and pink together because they create new colors. Because combining they create different shape and textures. So it's great to experiment with the different colors.
And you mentioned texture, and it's something that some of the veteran light painters refer to. And I want to talk a little bit about this because people don't really understand maybe what textures in a light painting brush is. Obviously, the brushes are amazing at this texture because they have obviously they articulate, right? They move around, and so just in moving around, they're creating textures
Yeah.
by like this. Can you speak on the different textures and what they do for your art?
Yeah, because I said that also using the same tools, you can create different effects and different textures. Uh, for example, with pink one, the final tips are white, and the fiber optic is pink. So just moving the fiber, you can see the pink and the white combining together. So you can see these textures and these colors in the same frame. So you can play with everything, with different colors, with this, and creating different shades of colors and textures. Um, and you can, I love, have you seen the double exposure with the fabric? You can also use different layers combining together in the same exposure. So this is also another way to create textures, and yeah, there are endless possibilities.
I love it. I love it. I don't really get around to doing the double exposures. I'm not much into the trick photography. I'm more into the painting just in one single exposure and seeing what happens. I have done them. I think they are beautiful. It's just something that's sometimes honestly I can think the real answer is once I get started, I don't even think about, I'm just so hyper focused on the model and getting the one shot that honestly, I don't even think about it, which is, thank you for reminding me. I think that maybe I'll try to start some.
Well, I didn't try I called it double exposure, but it's not like a double exposure because during the long exposure, you can illuminate different times. For example, the fabrics and then the model, and you create like an overlapping with the texture and the models. So you can see both in the same frame, but it's just long exposure. It's not two exposure
Yes.
like well.
Yeah, and so along those lines, do you have somebody at the camera that's going to cover the camera or put the lens cap on and then rearrange, pick up another tool, take the lens cap off when you're settled? How do you do that?
I do everything alone.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and or sometimes I just turn off the light, and then in the dark I change the fabrics and other things and the models. It's quite hard, but yeah, you can do it.
I agree. Sometimes I'm by myself, and sometimes I have my partner. She likes to help.
Mhm.
When she's not modeling, she definitely likes to help out and be a part of the creative process, and she's amazing at that. But I figured this is a good segue since we're talking about brushes and textures, and now we're talking about painting by yourself. And so obviously this is going to lead to the self-portraits and this beautiful self-portrait I think of you behind you. Can you talk about this portrait, how you did it? Um, what was going through your mind? Like, what did you think about before? Like, are you dreaming in this photo? I mean, this is just so beautiful. I can't even put it into words.
Yeah, I tried to um, do something very simple and ethereal. So yes, it was like dreaming with you can see the flower. So with one, I was sitting with one hand holding the flower and with the other hand moving the fiber. These are the pink one. With just this hand like this. And I try to close my eyes and stay still during the shot. It was very difficult. So I did like an hundred, I think, of pictures and just a few good results. But I'm very happy with it, and I love it. The most difficult part is to illuminate the face because only one side is can see here is illuminated and the other part is in the dark.
Yeah.
And of course not have the blurry and try to stay still during the shot is difficult, but it's very fun. So I recommend to everyone to try to do self-portrait because it's great to be in the dark alone, just with your creativity and the light. So it's like bring out your inner light.
And what
So
kind of emotions are you thinking of an emotion before you perform the image? Are you thinking like serenity? Are you thinking love, or sometimes pain or sorrow? Are you feeling an emotion in your face? Because this says a lot to me right here. This image.
Well, no, I just think I just try to. I when I paint, I also listen to music. So I try to listen to music and then feel the music and try to capture with the movement. So I always try to move the lights on my face like with a slow movement and capture what I feel. Sometimes it's love, a happiness, but these are during the quarantine, so it was not like happiness. Here I use the blue, so it's
Maybe more melancholy, or
yeah,
maybe more.
yes,
Yeah.
perfect.
And which is okay because we're not happy 100% of the time. But some of the self-portraits are the most self-expressive, and sometimes that is the case. And I want to share with you maybe a photo you have seen or haven't seen, but this photo actually of me
Yes.
is my self-portrait, and I did this out of your inspiration. You inspired me to do this, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Wow, it's beautiful. But you use the flash here to.
Yes, I used the flash here, and it was the only way for me to freeze myself I guess 5 feet away from the camera. And I didn't have any help, which obviously a self-portrait doesn't have any assistance or any person at the camera or lighting you and so you
was a very long exposure, right?
Yes, this one was about 14 and a half minutes. And so what I did is I illustrated all of the tree first, and then I grabbed the flash remote and I grabbed the book and I sat down and I have my light painting paradise pencils and I did all the grass around me. And so then you could see some of the depth that came around me. And so now all of the nature's done. I sat down with the book. I did the little symbols, the magic coming off the book. I did the little fairies around me.
Yeah.
And the very, very last thing is I took the flash and I just froze myself in time. And then I stood up. It was all dark. I stood up. I went over to the camera. I hit in and
but you already had in mind this picture.
Yes. Yeah. A couple months ago, one of the first illustrations that I did was a cocoon. It was very similar. It was the same tree. I had some flowers down here and a big white cocoon. Anyway, and so it was very much, I just replaced the cocoon with myself and the book. And so, yeah, it turned out okay. You know, it's very interesting to do self-portraits, you know, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot from this. I learned a lot that I do have the courage inside me to do something like this, and you know, and you really inspired me to do it. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I did a challenge. Do you remember the challenge on Instagram and on self-portraits?
Yeah.
A lot of people tried with self-portraits, so it was very fun and interesting to see what the others do with the self-portraits. So it's great. And your self-portraits is great because you studied before also the composition. So this is also the best part of light painting, because you can imagine what you want to create and then you do with light. So you can create everything that you just have in your mind.
Absolutely. And that's why I keep doing it. And that's kind of honestly, Maria, why I started illustrating. You know, I'm not a very good drawer. I'm getting better. But when you draw something out of thin air, really your possibilities are really limitless, because you could kind of draw anything. You know, I don't draw very difficult things, but you know, like grass and trees, those are things that we might have been drawing since we were a kid, you know, bringing home those finger paintings or those little drawings for the refrigerator for your parents. You know, it's like, I'm just doing the same thing.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I started with like drawing. So my first passion was drawing, and then I started with the photography, and then I discovered light painting. But I never tried to draw with light because it's not easy. But I have to try it.
Yeah, you should try. I highly recommend it. It definitely requires some patience and some trust in yourself, because you know you're drawing for quite a long time without being able to see what you've done. And so you have to trust that you remember where you are, number one, and what you've done, as well as, you know, how good it is. And so, you know, a lot of the times they don't work, and that's okay. It's part of the fun of just doing it and not really, you know, it's the journey, not the destination, so they say.
Yeah.
Another very beautiful image that is a favorite of mine is capturing her beautiful inner light. Can you walk us through this photo? This one really speaks to me. About the model, about where you were, how you did it, and what this means to you.
Well, it was a project about gold light. So I worked with a makeup artist and to use this gold. So I also studied about light, how to get this gold effect. And I use the white fiber optic with the color gels with orange and yes, this one, the orange and like yellow one. So I first illuminated the model with a flashlight, and then she was very, very still, and I moved the fiber optic around to enhance her beauty and her makeup, and so she's absolutely beautiful. So I tried to capture her beauty and light. So
It's amazing. You know, every single one of these photos from this series is amazing. Actually, everything you do is amazing, but this series in particular really speaks to me. I think you captured the gold lighting perfectly. Wow. Yeah. Thank you. And you know, now that we're going back through a little history, another one of my absolute favorites was from this series,
Oh,
and you know, we see a lot of some light painting with some aerial artists. I did a few myself. It's not easy because they're suspended. Can you give us any tips and tricks on working with someone that's hanging or suspended and they want to rotate? You know, like you know, how do you do this kind of photo?
well, I had an assistant, and he tried to keep on the circle to stay more still. And in this photo, you can see it's not very still. You can see the legs. I think it's impossible to take the picture with the not movements, but with simple poses. So not well, like dancing, or in this case she was just sitting on the circle, so it was easier for me. And I also it's important to move the here use the white fiber optic very fast. So this is a very important part, because otherwise the model will move for sure. So it had to be very quickly, and move the light painting tools quickly. And the exposure is always about 6 seconds.
Okay. Okay. I love it. I love it. And I'm assuming that it follows the same kind of guidelines as this one. This is also a favorite of mine. There's the favorites keep getting bigger and bigger in my list here. But can you talk to us about
Yeah,
this
so
one?
here the most difficult part was that there were not a black background, so it was white. So it was very difficult to hide myself behind the model. As in this case, I moved the fiber fast around the model, and you can see here some movements, but it's nice anyway to see a little bit of movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was very great to stay in this pose, because she's a great aerial dancer.
I love it. And I guess the two questions, you know, one of the things that you mentioned was trying to hide yourself from the image. And I think a lot of the people, especially newer to light painting of this art form, either struggle with that as the artist, or if you're a viewer, you're like, well, how come I can't see you? You know, that's the number one question I usually get is,
Yeah,
you know, how are you not in the shot? And
just
so,
wearing always black clothes, always. Yeah.
yes, no white, just black.
Sure.
Yeah, and so are you moving? Are you moving your feet? Are you consciously thinking about moving yourself, moving your body, mainly your feet, because your feet can sometimes, you know, you're going like this and
Or
you're feeling like you're, you know, so you're moving your hands, but you're not moving your feet sometimes, and so I have to remind myself, move your feet, especially when somebody's up.
I move all my body when I paint. So my feet, everything. So I move all around the model. So and very quickly. Well, because sometimes I did some tests, and a lot of them you can see my feet, or my legs, my hands. So
Yeah.
it's learning and practice, so, on how to hide yourself.
How to hide yourself. It's one of the most common mistakes that can happen, and it's something that every light painter needs to consider. What the attire they wear, yeah, among other things. But yeah, you know, when I dealt with an aerial shoot, I struggled with that. You know, they were on a lyra, which was a ring
Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
hoop, and so it wasn't suspended. It was actually from the ground. Um, but still, you know, that one little tiny pole is not like a beautiful dress that usually hides where I can hide behind. Yeah.
Yeah, because with a long dress you can hide yourself behind. Because if you use tubes, or if you are behind the model, is easier. But in this case, is quite difficult.
Yeah, I want to talk about the Airbnb experiences. You've been a gracious host. You meet so many beautiful people and share this wonderful art form with them. Can you tell us about some favorite parts around the city, some of the experiences you've had? And honestly, I'd really love for you to share with the audience how you actually, what you tell the people to get ready, or how you instruct them to model, because a lot of these people have never modeled, they don't know anything about light painting. So it'd be a great way for us to share with the audience all of your vast knowledge and expertise about modeling and light painting. Can you give us what you tell them and your favorite spots around the city?
Okay, yes. Well, I started with Airbnb experiences like 3 years ago, and the first time there was I didn't know how to tell people to stay still, because they are not model, they are like normal people, so they don't know what to do and what they have to do during the long exposure. So I just tell them to say like relax, and just say relax, don't move, it will be just a few seconds. So just this, and after so many tests, they see the results and they are excited about it. So they will see that we have to do very still, but well, I use like 10 seconds, so not a very long exposure. So it's better if you don't use a very, very long exposure, so they can stay more still.
And you're typically using the light painting brush sword when you're outside. And why do you use this beautiful tool?
Yes, I mostly use light swords and tubes, because they are better to use for outdoor photography and light painting, because for just a few seconds of exposure, using like bigger light painting tools is better, because you can just use like 5 seconds and the model is perfectly sharp and in focus.
Yeah, and do you typically take them around the city to a few favorite spots? I know I've seen a lot of beautiful work in the Colosseum. Can you explain some other places you've been? And
well, in Rome there are a lot of beautiful places, so it's difficult to choose the place. But yes, one of my favorite places is the Colosseum. Here it's very difficult because sometimes there are a lot of people, so there are a lot of people around, so the light painting is not easy, and also because there are a lot of ambient light. So you can see here there is a lot of light. So I use like 5-10 seconds. And well, this is one of my favorite spots. And also the Maximus Circus is a very big and huge place, and it's darker than the Colosseum, so it's better to do light painting.
okay. And what are you specifically telling the experience, the people? Are you saying, okay, this is going to be about 5 or 10 seconds of holding still? If there's a couple, do you ask them to do you pose them? Do you hey, express your love to each other, look at her, or look at him, like you really love him, and that'll shine through in the beauty that I'm expressing for you guys?
Yes, I help them with the poses. If they are couples, I try to capture their love and beauty. And I just tell them to show for example, here their love. So just kiss, just being together, and I will and I will do like Penny, so don't worry about that. And the first part is just modeling, so they can be the model, but the second part is more like practice and fun, because they can try also to paint. So it's more fun because they can try also with my tools to experiment.
Yeah, and have such great art actually come out of someone that's just trying it, and then they look and see what they did on the back of the camera, and then they realize that they're creative and that they're an artist, for even if it's just for that evening or just for that moment, makes them smile and take that with them forever. And I think it's great. I am an Airbnb host experience, and I have the similar shared experience like you know, giving them the art tools, you know, creating magic around them. You know, I often tell them before we go out, you know, what kind of magic are you into? You know, because I can paint a couple different ways, and that would, you know, I curtail it or I customize it to what they're looking for, like you. And these are all beautiful, and you work with such amazing people. I mean, look at these dancers, the way they hold their pose. This is one of my favorites of yours.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it's one of my favorite too, because, well, I remember it was so difficult with dancers because they wanted to move and dance, but in this case they had to be still. So it was not difficult to communicate with them and tell you have to be still in this pose. But this is a very simple pose, but I think the simple poses are the best ones.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, and with the pandemic, with the pandemic going on, at least here in the USA, Airbnb experiences have not been able to meet. No one has been able to hold them, but they are actually going to start again next week, and so soon. And hopefully, I'll have some people to share this with as well, and share with the light painting community. Maria, amazing job of hosting. You've inspired me to actually become a host just by watching.
Really? Okay, didn't know that. Wow.
Maria, is there a new tool that you haven't used yet currently?
Well, now I have a new tool. It's the lomography and instant camera. So I want to try new things with the instant camera, because with digital camera we can do a lot of tests and no worrying about how many tests we are doing. But with instant camera we have to think about and study the composition and the lights before. So it will be a big challenge for me, but it will be fun.
I can't wait to see that. Yeah. One thing I've actually tried to, or I'm struggling with, or at least I'm learning right now, is the calligraphy art form. And it's very challenging, but also very rewarding when you get something that, you know, turns out and looks, you know, somewhat decent. Yeah. And so you mentioned one of the actually images that captured your eye from me was something I did in the desert under the Milky Way. And it's this image. And so, yeah, thank you. Do you have any questions for me regarding this one?
Is it a one exposure?
Yes, yeah. So this is one 30-second exposure. I started with obviously I started with the model, and so we positioned her in this fabric. This is an annual tradition I do with my partner, and she is actually nude, and so it's in her birthday suit, and this is actually on her birthday. So every year on her birthday, we're going to do a different light painting image for her to remember. And we happen to be celebrating out in the desert where there is very little light pollution. The Milky Way was in full viewing. This was around 3 a.m. in the morning. So it's about a 30-second exposure. I believe my ISO was pretty high. I think it was 3200, if not 2000 at least. And so for those with or without the model, the Milky Way can be exposed properly. And the tube spin was a black tube from Light Painting Tubes, and it had a circle plexi, I believe, from Light Painting Brushes on the end. And it was a quick spin. It took me 2 seconds to get a full rotation, and then 28 seconds of her standing still, me exiting the scene, and letting the Milky Way soak into the image, if you will. And that was it. It's not that complicated. You do have to wait in the middle of the night until the Milky Way is showing. You know, sometimes 3 in the morning is hard to get to, but it was well worth it. Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's wow.
Yeah, thank you. You know, sometimes I struggle with positioning the model. You know, I'm not a dancer, if you will. You know, and so I'm trying. Often, you know, we had help here with some staging and a costume person who was quite well versed in doing these kind of shots. And so she draped the fabric over her, and you know, we got the shot done. So yeah, it turned out pretty good. She's super happy with her birthday present.
The fabric is just a white, simple one.
Yeah, and like you said, sometimes the simple poses, sometimes the simple fabrics is all it takes, because when you're doing this kind of art, the simplicity and the magic really speak volumes here. And so actually, this is literally just a white sheer curtain that you would find, behind a bigger, more solid drape. So this is actually the inner lining of a curtain. And it's 10 feet. I have tall ceilings in my house, and so we just took it off the window and we with us. Yeah.
But use a full frame camera, or you can take this shot with any camera.
You can do this shot with any 30-second exposure camera. I think even a camera that I bought in 2001 that was not even a DSLR could actually do this kind of shot. You need a tripod, obviously. But I would recommend 30 seconds. I would recommend an ISO of 3200, and just be super quick. I think my flashlight was on the lowest setting because of the high ISO. And so I believe that my luminosity was about 200 lumens, if not 160. And so make sure that your flashlight is on the very, very, very low, and make sure your camera and the ISO is on very, very high. Any camera could really get this shot done. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the most difficult part is to find a good balance between the light painting, and the illumination of the sky and the landscape when you work outdoor.
Yeah, no, it's always the most difficult, especially if you have to backlight a forest, or if you have to light up a building, or if there's ambient light, and often you work down in the city, and where there is a lot of street lights to deal with, or cars or other people. And so, yeah, it's not easy, light painting is a beautiful art form that is a good challenge.
Learning every day.
We learn something every day, every day. Maria, I ask everyone on the podcast this: if you could add one song to the master Spotify playlist, a song that inspires you, maybe you light paint to it, maybe you meditate to it, something that you would like to share that represents you, what one song would you like to share with the world?
When I do light painting, I always listen Einaudi song. So Einaudi, Nuvole Bianche, is a very relaxing song. So it's very inspiring.
Amazing. I can't wait to listen to it. Like you, I often like to paint to classical music or something that's very soothing and very flowy. I feel like I can actually tempo. I think, the speed of my lights and the speed of my hand movements are very important to me to get the desired effect that I'm looking for, instead of the chaos of
yeah.
And so that's important. I can't wait to paint to this, and I might even do a self-portrait to this song. So thank you. I love that. Okay, Maria, one final question for you. If you could go back in time, when you first started light painting and when you first found light painting, and of all of the experience and the knowledge that you've accrued along the way, what would you tell yourself now that you didn't know then?
Well, I had a lot of people that told me that light painting is too difficult, that work with photography and light painting is difficult. So I just can tell, just follow your passion, do what you love, and don't worry about the others, and just do what you want and follow your passion.
Yeah, no, it's so important, because you keep making art for you. It's your style. You have the most feelings towards it, and so it's going to keep bringing you back. It's going to keep making you wanting to do the next one, and the next one, and the next one after that. So amazing advice. Stay with it. It's not easy, but with patience.
But yes, anything is easy. So, but if you do something with passion, so it will be easier.
Yes, absolutely. Well, there's nothing that screams more passion, beauty, and inspiration than your artwork, all of it, yourself included. Maria, thank you for joining me on the show. It's been an amazing episode. I can't wait to have you back.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your invitation. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, and we can follow you on Instagram, and we can follow you on Facebook. I'm going to put links to all of your do you have a website that you can share with the world?
Yes, actually, I'm working on the new website. It will be online in September. But yes, it is mariasaggese.com. It's very simple.
All right. Well, it sounds like September we might have another episode together. It sounds like there's some big things in your future, and I cannot wait to hear more about them. Maria, I can't say thank you enough. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.